So the filter's making like air sucking sounds, which normally means that the water level's got just below this little ridge here. Go Buffy. But it's also not putting out a lot of water. So either the intake is blocked or what? So I guess it's time to work out what's wrong with this filter. What's wrong with the filter, Buffy? Hey? What's wrong with the filter? One of the hardest part about having floating plants in a tank that also has this grass is it all gets mixed up the top. You know, on this, because it's just, you know, starts to die and rot and messes with the whole balance of your tank altogether, and then you get crashes and spikes and it all turns to hell. But so now I've got the lovely job. I get to go through and individually pick out all the plants I want, put them to one side, then scoop out, get rid of all the debris, and then I can start playing with the cleaning of the rest of the tank. Alright, so now we don't have any floaties. We can actually have a look, see what's blocking this filter. First thing to do is take off that sponge I've got on the intake. I'll need to put some fish tank water in here and give it a good rinse out. That does clog up a lot, and you can see by the darkness in the colour down the bottom that it is probably quite gunky. A lot of that could be little bits of algae and stuff. I've noticed now that I'm looking a bit harder, there is a little bit of algae building up on the back wall there. So, and if you look, some of the plants are a little bit furry, which could be a little bit of overfeeding. There's a few different reasons why that might happen. But in all, the tank's quite clean and quite clear, so I'm quite happy with it. The suckers probably just aren't, you know, doing what they need to be doing. So I'll probably just scale back the feeding a little bit. But once it's taken out a lot of this floaties as well, that'll take a lot of decaying plants out of the water. So hopefully that helps out. But in general, this tank never gets worse than this. This is probably one of the worst states it gets in. It's quite self-manageable. So I'll take this filter out, start off there. Oh, easy fellas. I'll take this filter off, start there, clean that out, see how much gunk we get out of it. Then have a look at cleaning out the tubes. So when you do clean out a filter like this, or anything to do with anything, it's important you do it with the same tank water that you normally use. You can see I missed quite a few floaties in there, but they're sacrifices at this point. So I'm just going to fill this bucket up. As you see, it's still quite clear, and you'll see when I start wringing that out how much debris, and this is basically a mechanical filter. It stops stuff getting into the biological filter as a whole. So I'm happy for all that to go. Shouldn't affect, you know, the balance of my tank or anything. Whenever I clean out this filter, I always make sure I don't do too much to the tank until it rebalances out a bit, because, you know, big changes cause crashes, which in turn make sickly fish. So I've got my filter out. As you can see, there's actually quite a build-up of sludge on the back that you can already see. So that's not a good sign. There's been maybe a bit too much feeding going on. I like to give this pipe a rinse out, because if there's any build-up in here, I know I need to drastically reduce the feeding. Not too bad. Nice and clean. Because the bottom of this actually doesn't get covered by the sponge at all. So yeah, definitely feels a bit spongy, like gross, you know? Feels gross. It's got a lot of sludge there. So as I'm squeezing it, I can actually feel the water going in and out a lot easier, a lot better. You can feel it like be more absorbent than less absorbent. You know, the more stuff in it, the less it feels like a sponge, and more it feels like a wet rag when it's when you got a lot of the hard mechanical stuff out. It starts feeling like a sponge again. So this will do. It doesn't have to look brand new. I should buy these filters in packs of 12. And what I'll do is sometimes if I'm, you know, out of time or in a rush, I'll just put a brand new one on and I'll put this one aside, and then I'll let it dry out completely, then I'll clean it. I'm not too worried about losing the biological balance when I remove these, because I'm only using these as a mechanical filter, because any of that sludge and build up I don't want getting in here. And ever since I've done this, I only have to clean the big canister filter maybe once every few months, whereas before it was quite regularly gunking up in the inside. All my tubing was gunking up, like I was just pumping a lot of gunk through the system. Adding this foam on the intake was probably the best thing I did for preventative maintenance, I guess you could call it, for this tank. So I do recommend them. They're cheap as. I just bought a pack of 12, as I said, for somewhere around 10 bucks. Good investment. And that's ready to go back in. So before I put the filter back in and I actually start running water again, we see if that was it, that was the problem. I'm just going to give it a good vacuum out. You can see some floating debris around there from where the filter was sitting, and it was quite sludgy. And if I need to give any more reasons, which I don't, it's time for the weekly clean anyway. Might be a bit hard to see. A little shrimp there. It always amazes me how they pop their head up. Whenever I'm cleaning, they like to get sucked up the vacuum. So I've got to watch for that. But look, he doesn't seem to, I don't know if he's long for this world, if he doesn't quite comprehend danger like that. We'll take one more bucket before we start putting the water back in. Just give this area a bit of a clean up. Back here was where the natural trap is, where I get most of the gunk, but there's a few spots around here that need a bit of a go over. I just sort of give it a wiggle. I hover over the bottom, give it a wiggle, just disturb anything that might want to come up. I don't stab it into the dirt because I just suck up the dirt. And then eventually I'll have no dirt left. But I sort of know the main culprit spots that collect, like sort of the peaks and the troughs and the valleys and the bits of you know, the obstacles that fight the current of the tank, if you will, and just make deposits and build-ups. So I try and attack them, and I leave some spots because I do have a lot of bottom cleaners in here, a lot of shrimp and stuff. They sort out a lot of things, but there's just a few bits that build up big deposits. Oh, another shrimp. Let him get out. Whenever I do get a shrimp, I kink the hose like this. Let him reduce the current of the, I mean, every time I think I catch them most of the time, but I wouldn't know if I miss, you know. So I don't know how many shrimp have ended up in the garden via bucket. So just reinstated the covers because you can see they're getting quite antsy. A lot of jumping. The main cause of me losing barla sharks before is in the middle of the night before I had proper covers over, and when I thought I did and they didn't cover enough, I'd walk past and I'd hear a splash and I thought I'd just spooked them, but I used to actually spooked it out of the tank, and you wake up to a dry fish the next day. Ever since I put the covers on, we've been right. But yeah, I do notice if you walk past, you spook them, they jump, and they seem to love jumping straight for the corners of the place. So, it's not very good. I'll trickle feed in some more of this water. There's the valve giving out in the tap, slowing it down a bit. I like to fill it up slowly. Once it's filled up, we'll have a look and see how good our cleaning job was. Alright, so I've got the sponge back in there, all cleaned out, filled right back up. I've probably filled it a little bit too high because, as you can see, some of the ports are actually in the water. I like to get a little bit more surface disruption than that, but this will do. Let evaporation take its course. So I'll plug it in. Now normally, after something like this happens, a little bit of gunk will come out the line. So I've had the filter off for about 35 minutes now, which is a long time, so I'm pretty keen to get it back on. But normally a little bit of gunk comes out, so don't be concerned. Are you ready, Buffy? She's ready. Alright. So let's see the sort of stream we get. Plug it back in. Yeah, there's the gunk that I was talking about. But that stream's a lot better. I'm getting good surface disruption. It's actually quite nice because down this end it's fairly still, but this end a lot of ripples, which is good. It gives these guys a place to settle down here. This area stays open, keeps the area. Now this stuff used to really concern me when I saw it come out. Oh yuck, gross, you know. Now I have to clean the tank again. Now I'll just wait, I'll let it settle, and sometimes tomorrow I'll just give that filter another quick rinse out. Alright, so let's release these guys back. Very clumped up at the moment. They spread out, even if they're upside down, they sort of work it out for themselves, flip around somehow. Not quite sure. Oh, there we have it. Block filter fixed. Can't hear it sucking air. Well then, doesn't suck air any more than usual. It does do that once every few minutes normally. I don't know why. It is what it is. Nice solid stream. Plants are happy. Fish better be happy. They never appreciate what you do for them. That's it. Thanks for watching.